Hello fellow gamers, I'm Christopher Chrisman of Retro Game Network, and coming up next, a look at last week's retro video game news on the RGN Files for the week ending Saturday, June 8th, 2019. In the RGN Files this week, Sega has officially announced the final wave of titles that will be included on their upcoming Sega Genesis Mini. The console will be a plug-and-play device that features a collection of games from the company's 16-bit lineup, which was popular throughout the 1990s. The system will offer HDMI connection capability with a native 720p resolution output and will include all the required connections alongside of your choice of either 1 or 2 controllers of the 3-button variety. Those wanting a 6-button controller set will have to import the Japanese Mega Drive version of the device. The final 10 games initially announced for the North American release are as follows: Alicia Dragoon, Columns, Dynamite Headdy, Eternal Champions, Kid Chameleon, Light Crusader, Monster World 4, Road Rash 2, Strider, and Virtua Fighter 2. After the initial announcement, Sega also stated that an additional 2 titles would also be included to bring the grand total number of games on the device to 42. The first of these is a special 16-bit port of the arcade title Darius, which has been specifically developed for the console. In addition, the extremely rare Genesis version of Tetris will also be included as part of the package. Sega also announced an optional purchase for a set called the Mega Drive Tower Mini, which includes non-functional replicas of the Mega CD, 32X, and cartridges of Sonic & Knuckles and the original Sonic the Hedgehog, as a homage to the 90s add-on devices that were originally released alongside of the original Genesis. The Genesis Mini is slated to be released on September 19th of this year and will cost just under $60 with a single controller or just under $80 with 2. The cosmetic-only Mega Drive Tower Mini will cost gamers just under $40. Hyperkin has given gamers a small teaser of this week's E3 convention by announcing their upcoming Retron Ultra console. The Retron Ultra will be a Nintendo 64 clone and was announced by Hyperkin project manager Andrew Steele via the social media outlet LinkedIn. The device will be compatible with the Nintendo 64 cartridge library, and just like the original N64, will offer 4 controller input ports. The system is slated to be able to connect to modern television sets using the HDMI standard. However, it has not yet been confirmed as of yet as to what the output resolution would be. Steele showed off a video of a prototype of the system in operation, which displayed the system playing games such as GoldenEye 007, Super Mario 64, and Super Smash Bros. However, it was during a clip of the system playing Mario Kart 64 that gamers began to take their concerns to the internet. During the demonstration video of Mario Kart 64, a video glitch is shown that is very commonplace with many forms of Nintendo 64 emulation. This exact glitch has been duplicated exactly using the Mupen 64 emulation program, in which it has been speculated that this is the emulation program to be used for the new console. While we cannot rule out the potential of the system taking advantage of FPGA, chances are very high that Hyperkin's product will be using emulation methods exclusively. With this in mind, most N64 games may or may not run successfully, while some games, such as those from Factor 5, may have fatal loading issues that could warrant them totally unplayable unless additional action is taken prior to the system's release. Hyperkin plans to give more details and specifications about the upcoming Retron Ultra console at this week's E3 convention. Stay tuned to Retro Game Network for the latest developments. Last year, Coleco had completed a successful Kickstarter campaign that would bring a new wave of their tabletop arcade games to consumers. The original Coleco games were marketed as the arcade games you can take home with you, and were first introduced by the company back in 1981. The updated wave of games, now known as Coleco Evolved, earned the company over $71,000 in funding. The new titles offer the classic retro shape and plastic shell design that the original items from the 80s featured. The insides, however, have been brought up to date with modern and more reliable technologies, such as a full-color LCD display, new gaming chipsets, and rechargeable batteries. 2 brand new games were developed for the systems that are based on the Robotech and Rainbow Bright franchises. Both of these franchises were animated television series that debuted during the era of the original tabletop games, yet neither of them ever received a full-size arcade game offering. The games, Rainbow Bright Journey to Rainbow Land and Robotech The Macross Saga, offer new games with a retro look, feel, and sound as if they were replicas of titles that would have been released during the time of their original television program broadcasts. The original Kickstarter was successfully funded 1 year ago last week, and those that took advantage of the campaign initially were able to get a discount on the devices. Coleco Toys are now offering the 2 new games for purchase by the general public, for those that missed out on the original crowdfunding. The company even exclaimed on their official Instagram page last week, quote, "The minis are here," end quote. The cost for your choice of either the Robotech or the Rainbow Bright game in this updated Coleco Evolved tabletop game library is just under $75 each. Retro Game Network had previously reported on a brand new Atari 2600 port of the classic arcade title Galaga. The project, which has been developed by Champ Games, was shown up on the Zero Page Homebrew Twitch stream about 3 weeks ago. Previously, it had been thought that such a game would not be physically programmable on the 2600 during its original lifespan due to the game's complex nature. However, this has been proven recently to not be the case. It was said during the original announcement last month that a demonstration ROM image would be made available for the public to try out and test prior to an official release, and such a ROM image was in fact made available this past Friday. The ROM is a fully playable version of the game, but it has been modified with a handful of restrictions. Both the challenge skill level and co-op modes have been disabled, as has the save key functionality. In addition, the game will automatically return to the first level after completing level 8. According to Champ Games, the demonstration ROM image, which is being offered as a free download, can be run on most Atari 2600 emulation software programs. However, it should be noted that if you are going to run it using the Stella emulator, the latest version with CDFJ is required, meaning it requires version 6.0.1. The ROM image is also compatible with the Stella Raider emulation program and can also be loaded onto actual Atari 2600 hardware using the Harmony series of cartridges. Champ Games has stated at this point that the game has reached 99% completion and they are aiming for a physical release, complete with box, cartridge, and manual combination, sometime by the end of this year, possibly at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. Galaga was originally published by Namco in Japan and by Midway in North America in 1981. And finally, this week, growing up, we were always told as kids that a penny saved is a penny earned. But what if those same pennies that we saved and earned were stored in a simulated screen of the arcade title Donkey Kong? Well, that's exactly what Merchoid is currently wondering themselves, as they prepare an official coin bank and money box that is shaped just like the original arcade cabinetry. This officially licensed product comes to us with a height of 30 centimeters, just under 1 foot. When you insert your change at the top, the coins will glide down the ramps just like the barrels did when you played the original Donkey Kong title. The bank is currently being offered for pre-order, in which only a handful of them remain available. According to Merchoid, when you place a pre-order with them, your payment will be immediately taken out of your bank, no pun intended, and you will receive a confirmation of your order via email. Once the item arrives in stock, your order will ship and you will receive a shipping notification, once again by email. The banks cost just under $22, which includes the cost of shipping and handling. The banks are presently scheduled to be shipped out sometime next month. That's it for this week's edition of the RGN Files. For those listening on VGM on FM, please stay tuned. There'll be more music coming up shortly. For complete details of any of this week's stories, visit RetroGameNetwork.com. And don't forget to check us out on our social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Retro Game Network, and on Twitter and Twitch at RetroGameNet. For the RGN Files, I'm Christopher Chrisman. This week's news stories provided by the following: the Atari Age Forums, Game Tyrant, LinkedIn, N64 Today, Nintendo Life, Retro Magazine, Sega of Japan, TechSpot.